It was a day just as another. There was nothing particular that stood out. My mother, having received a call about her sister, broke down. Only yesterday I saw my aunt in another city, and a person who went to sleep as peacefully as she could in the last few days did not end up waking up. This was my aunt who was fighting cancer for a year and a half, and after having recovered, she went into remission. And while in remission, I was closely involved in her treatment as she saw doctors and consulted them over their advice. Having taken safer of the two options, she decided not to go for surgery. This somehow led to her own demise. This news being passed on from my mother was quite shocking. All the same, realizing that someone has cancer and is fighting it actively makes you a little prepared for their death. But seeing someone recover from cancer and then passing away is a shock on a different level. At first, I went numb. I did not know how to react. Only a few days before her passing away, I had a conversation with my cousins, my aunt's children. I, I myself, having talked to multiple doctors, had reassured my cousins that she's going to be alright, that she's on a path to recovery. Once the situation really set in, I was just trying to realize, process what this means. And as my brain works in general, I wasn't trying to process my emotions, but rather to say, what next? What is my role? How may I help? The part that really put me off the edge was the time when I touched my aunt's cold feet. In Indian tradition, for Hindus, we burn our dead. I was one of the two people who helped my uncle lift my aunt off a stretcher onto the wooden pyre. When I realized what her cold feet meant, I broke down. That was the first time I cried for several years for my own pain, for my own grief of having lost someone. As time went by, I tried to understand, to process what death meant. Within a month of this happening, I was flying internationally, and while I was alone in the flight, I broke down. It was not the last time or the first after the day she was burnt that I was affected. Her death was a big loss, and if there could be anything viable that I could do, I would have very much liked to. There were some parts of her death that I'm actually thankful for. Her death triggered in me something very emotional. I felt more emotionally connected to myself. I cried for the next 6 months more often than I had in the past 4 years. I felt like a closed door opened. It was easy to depressurize some valves. Not just that, I felt I wasn't connected with myself, but now I felt I could grow closer. Naturally, her death brought me back to real questions about the fragility of all human connections that I have, of the people I'm close to, my family, my friends, how easy and how untimely death can be. I think her death also brought me to a point where I was finally ready to give up the ideology that most of my parents in the generation have been living with. They believe in karma, and they believe that if someone has a good will and does good to others, will get their reward. However, of all the people in my family, in my extended family that I've known of, she was one of the kindest people, one of the most caring ones who would ensure that two people who were in a disagreement could sort things out. But to a person like this, when death takes them away, there cannot be a reason why it happened if someone believed in karma, if someone believed in good deeds. That was a defining moment where I felt you cannot believe in karma after this. Then on, I did not believe life had its own rules that it was playing with. As a person of science, I always felt almost everything in life is random. But there's a part of you that really wants to hold on to one idea that keeps you afloat. I had lost that thread. Then on, acceptance of death became much easier. In its entirety, I think this experience was really revealing for me. I experienced that I could connect to my emotional side closely. I experienced that certain events, good or bad, often bad, really make you experience yourself face to face. All the same, it also helped me form my own definition of what life means to me. And even if there were an afterlife, which I do not believe to be the case, I think we make the most of our life here.